We're just live right now. I'm turning these on. I've been out bird hunting and you don't want your hearing aids on when the gun goes bang. But I need to see it in this. Right, so you're recording and you have a forum of those things. If you wanna. So at the top there.
Right, I will call the order. And do you record attendance, Joe? Or do I?
I'm doing that now. We have, looks like we have Ned and Alice. Cynthia's with us remotely. Allie.
Can we see it here, Ally, or just?
Allie, can we hear you? I don't think she has a camera on her device. We wanna make sure we can hear her.
It looks like she's muted.
I'll ask her.
Hi.
Hi, Ally.
Hey. Yeah, I was muted. I don't know why. I didn't have any ability to unmute myself, but it's working now.
So I guess item 2 is to declare that we do have a quorum and disclose any conflict of interest. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
None.
Okay. Review of meeting minutes. Do we even have a copy of them?
Yeah, I didn't, they're not in that either, they were separate. Well, I can pull up the screen, can everybody see that all right?
Yep.
Actually, hang on a second, get out of this. Sorry about that, I thought they were in your packet. Stand by. Ally can probably see those pretty easily, though, folks in the camera. Anyway, I'm not even thinking. Oh,
We're having technical difficulties.
yeah, now, do you mind coming back to those?
No, not at all. Going to item number 5, public to speak. Chris, is that you?
Oh, I'm to speak on any non-agenda items or just,
It just says public to speak as item number 5.
but no, I'm just here to hear what's going on and
Okay,
find out, cause that, the other side of the dam affects my client's property.
do we have correspondence?
Multiple clients' properties.
Do we have any correspondence to be read into record, Joe? Okay, reports of the committee. I guess there are no reports.
That's okay if there aren't any.
Okay, so on to old business, appointing a secretary.
Bylaws, Mr. Chair, you call for a secretary position from the membership of the committee. I don't know if there's anyone interested in that.
And if Jim and I are both chair and vice chair, can we hold that?
No,
No,
it should be
okay.
separate from that.
Okay, so Ned, Ally, either of you interested in being the secretary?
What's the secretary do?
Secretary would handle the minutes of the meeting essentially. Keep track of what's talked about and then add it into the minutes. And circulate them like I was trying to do a few minutes ago to the committee.
Sure,
Basically,
I've never done that before, but I can try it.
okay, and I can help you. I can get you the format. I'll email it to you.
Okay,
Yeah, okay.
Do we need a formal
Sure.
motion to appoint her?
Yes, you should.
Okay. I make a motion to appoint Ally Fraser as the secretary of the Haley Pond Committee.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's which alley it is.
Yeah.
I,
It's out.
Pretty true. And Nick made the motion and Ned seconded.
The emergency action plan, I assume that's information that you have? or is
That's
that-
the information, yeah, that's a follow-up, from the last meeting, we talked a little bit about that, and I emailed it out, I believe, to the committee, and it's also on our website, as I recall, we talked about it some the last time. That's something we train on, you know, internally, the state of Maine has that, for planning purposes, and anybody downstream, there's a list of folks who live downstream from this, we have their contact information, so forth on that, so we know what to do, should there be a flooding event. Let's just follow up on that.
There's only one thing I can think of under old business, and maybe in the minutes of the last meeting, that I was gonna contact Maine Submerged Lands Program, which I believe is the Department of Conservation. I did speak with a woman there in the Submerged Lands Program whose name I do not recall at the moment. And they had no knowledge of the sluiceway and the dam even existing.
Okay.
So they don't know anything about it. Her advice was to contact the DOT and their right-of-way office. And I have contacted someone there. I'm just awaiting a call back
Okay,
to find out if they know anything about this.
so you reached out to Maine DOT right away office. For more info. Yeah, and one of the things when you get to new business, a key way into that conversation, but I'm assuming that this is the town's responsibility to take care of this. That's an assumption. You know, I don't know that, you know, it's something that we're required to take care of, anything like that. So one of the things in fact finding that I would like to know is, how did that happen? And is it actually us that's supposed to? We are doing it. We have been doing it for a period of time. And we have plans to handle it and so forth, but should it be us or should it be someone else?
Chris?
What's the acreage of Haley Pond?
170 acres.
Oh.
If for the last 65, 70 years at least, the town and people in town have maintained the gate, I assume that it would be quite feasible for us to continue to maintain the gate. And that's where we have to decide how to do that and do it right.
Yeah, I don't disagree that it may end up being us. I just, if during this process, we can, you know, determine for sure that, you know, it's us that's supposed to be doing it, that would be great. If not, we're just gonna assume that it's the town's responsibility.
Well, I don't think somebody's gonna come out of the woodwork from who knows where and say, wait a minute.
Thanks, Tracy. I forgot that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
I would suggest having a conversation with Inland Fish and Wildlife because they, that's a tributary that goes into Rangeley Lake and they do help quite a bit there.
That point did come up at the meeting, was it last month?
Yeah.
At last month's meeting, that Joe is gonna contact someone from Inland Fisheries. To find out, to get someone
Because they
here
get-
to talk to us about what's a proper water level in there and how best to maintain it.
Yeah, and I did make contact with Alex Abbott, I believe he's US IFNW, he's on furlough right now, so he's like, he's unable to come up, he's interested in talking to you.
Okay,
And there are some other contacts that I have names of being strong that can come to it.
I stopped years ago, more than once over there, just to inquire if they have any interest. And all they said was, well, you're gonna have to go to Augusta. And I got a lot of information from Augusta, but I didn't wanna proceed on it, because then it would look like I was stepping on toes here in Rangeley.
Anything else under old business?
Mhm.
Yes.
Pardon me?
Is there anything else under old business?
Well, it's what we talked about now that the pond is practically drained all the way. And this is the time to really examine the gate closely.
I have some photographs that I can pull up on the screen later on, take a look at that. Under new business.
So the,
Just off the wall, a neighbor of mine said, if it costs money to fix it, and of course, you know, emergency fixing, just some new board, he said, I'll throw in $200. I said, I'll throw in $200 too. You know, it's a matter of just a quick emergency fix. Again, it's old business. We'll be in the same place here next year if we don't do anything now. Unless in the middle of the summer you want to drain the pond, and it's not gonna make too many people happy.
I have some photos that I can show you of the gate and the dam under number 9.
anything else under old business? No, okay. So moving on to new business, Joe, do you want to comment on transfer of operational control to the fire department?
I do. I've had some conversations internally, and we've talked about this previously, who has been taking care of it, and how that's worked. There will be a transition. It's already begun from the folks at the wastewater department. We'll hand the torch off to folks at the fire department. Now the fire department is involved in monitoring that dam in terms of emergency management plan and storm events anyway. So we're gonna try that out and see how it works. It's gonna begin with the opening process, which is, Ned said, is happening currently. So they're training on that, and then it's open for the winter, and then in the spring to be the spring procedure, which is based on a written document. One of the previous meetings. So
$50 fine.
So yeah, there's really, you know, I'm not looking for any assistance from the committee with that. I'm letting you know, that's something that I have requested and directed to take place, and everybody thinks it's a good idea, so that's in motion. We'll try it out, see how it works.
I just have one question on that point, John. I think it's a great idea. Is this likely to result in a revisiting or revamping of the emergency plan? I know it's really early in the game. The chief probably hasn't even thought about that yet, but
I don't know. The short answer is no, I don't think that there would need to be. I think the operations of that in emergency situations would be ultimately the same. But they will now have adjustment responsibilities on a daily basis, because they actually are on duty 7 days a week. So not 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They will check it. And it wouldn't be a volunteer expectation as it has been previously. That's just an update for you. Again, this is kind of a trial. You know, we're trying to see how it works. I think it's gonna work fine. Everybody's pretty positive about it, but we have to make some adjustments as we go. But I wanted you to be aware of that. Hear it from me first, I guess. So.
and Chris, do you have anything you want to comment on that point
Well,
there?
I just wanted to say that a couple things, just in general, is that I think it would be good to get it into some kind of official capacity and protocol to do that. And then I also think if we do it that way, I'm willing to go to Senator Collins' office and see if we can get an earmark or any replacement that needs to be done on that. We anticipate a lot of that infrastructure is quite old, especially around the bridge and those pieces.
Mhm.
And that's one of the reasons we went and got a grant with the water district to run that second line that goes by the backside of that duplex behind Sarge's,
Mhm.
across the water and by the Masons thing.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you know, your light's on, you're gonna drain your battery. I've done that same thing, shutting off a
I
phone.
hate these things. Even though we need them.
Yeah. Hate to see you drain your battery, so.
Thank you.
So, you know, it's important to us, as you know, actually, Craig, my client there, tell us the same. He owns both sides of the. He's impacted either way,
Mhm.
because the high side is the parking lot, and the low side is the annex and the parking lot, so. Yeah, so obviously we want to try to work on that. We think that that's an important piece. You may or may not know, I am a member at the Masonic Lodge, and we're in the middle of a $200,000 capital campaign to jack up the lodge. And we're gonna be putting in floodgates underneath that so that water could pass through if we get in that situation
Can
again.
I ask about that footage? Because there's no snow. I just saw a lot of water running. Do we know why the water was running so high?
We do, actually, it's related to data that is in your packets there, there's some. If one of you wanna look at it, Chris, on the table over there.
Was that in December of 2023?
About that bridge storm?
I remember that quite well.
Yes, the Grinch storm, I think, yeah, you do, don't you?
Yes,
Yes,
quite well.
so that was a 100-year event, if I remember.
Yeah.
Well, we've had a couple of 100-year events there.
You aren't wrong, the Dana Bullen, who's president of Sunday River, you live in Sunday River. He said that in Newry, with that storm, was the third 100-year event they've had in 5 years. So it seems like
Mhm.
that's no longer the piece. So I guess, I think one of the things, what I would like to see is that we can look at, if we can come up with a full management plan for that way, so we can actually look at building with approval, that obviously be on the homeowner's responsibility, but to do some, be able to build some channeling or barriers so that we can protect.
I'm just curious,
areas.
between the Masonic Hall and Rangeley Lane, are there any other buildings that are basically sitting in a floodplain like the Masonic Hall is?
I think Scott Morton's is pretty darn close. He's at the same elevation level.
Okay.
He's set back a little bit farther, but I would assume that that first house would sit there. Jamie and Beth's house sits up about 12 feet higher, and that garage of theirs, I think, sits 5 or 6 feet higher. So I think all I do know is that when we renovated Sarge's, after you're 2 feet within the foundation from the street side, we're in the floodplain. We have flood vents that are put in both those buildings. So, you know, and we're planning on we're lifting the whole building with I-beams, and when we take it down and put it on the foundation, we're leaving the I-beam rooms open so that water can pass
You're
through.
referring to the Masonic Hall.
Yeah, Masonic Hall, when we do that part, yeah. So that pretty much all 3 of those buildings are in shape, but the other 2 buildings that are susceptible to that would be the duplex in the back, which is an open foundation there too, so it'd probably be okay. And then Scott Morton's property is the only other one that would be affected, and of course, Doc Brandt's,
Mhm.
so.
So here's a photo of the Haley Pond side of the dam. You can see the timbers here. They're in okay shape, but they need to be replaced. Crack in that one. Starting to show some age on the top there. I'm gonna try to show you a picture here in a minute of the gate itself. Just give me a second to kind of pull that up. I don't know, a process here. Then we can talk about that. This is the back side of the actual gate, so we can see there's some water that is kind of coming underneath.
Is there a board missing at this point?
So no, there isn't, and I want to make sure that we kind of get that on the record, that there's nothing missing. I've consulted with the folks at the wastewater plant, they've confirmed that there's nothing missing. There is a little
There would
bit
be
of-
holes there if it weren't, right?
There's a little bit of a gap here, I mean, because it's worn, but the wood, obviously some wood coming out, water coming under the dam. But as you can see, there's nothing going over it in this picture. This is a couple weeks, this was the day after, I think, your last meeting, so within the last month or so, I went and took these pictures. Let me see if I can get one of the front side of that.
So I had one crazy thought I wanted to pitch while I was here. So the gentleman bought the old IGA, nothing's happened to it in 3 years. Hasn't really moved on it. I think he paid about 150,000 for it.
Mhm.
Every few months I call him and ask him if he wants to sell it.
That makes two of us, or I at least ask him what he's doing with it.
Yeah. So I didn't know if it was possible we could look at maybe trying to write a grant where we could then get that building, demo it, make it an expanded park, and then at the same time clean up the area we need to fix the dam, like kind of all in one package.
Mhm.
I think it would sell at least at the congressional level for that,
Mhm.
for an earmark, and I think we could then really do it right, and we could also pay a price for that property that he might be willing to part with it. At a profit.
Might wanna talk to Jamie Eastpack, because I heard through the grapevine that one of the plumbing contractors is looking, or electrical contractor is looking at buying that building for storing materials in.
Yeah, I haven't, yeah, I'll check, but I mean, I check in with, I know the owner and I check in with him every few months like you do.
Joe, I don't know if you remember. I talked to you about that. I said. Off the wall, why don't we take the building over, you know, eminent domain and turn it into what you called, and it's room for 3 beautiful food trucks with plenty of space to do stuff behind. There's a parking, there's a whole lot of options. You said, eminent domain don't work too easily.
Eminent domain doesn't work, so I think we'd have to go and negotiate ahead and then
I know.
together, but I like the idea of having a little bit more parking there. And then just having, I just think, a lot of people don't even know Haley Pond's there. And I think it would materially change the whole downtown to have that.
It's absolutely, and it's connected to the little gazebo park.
Right, where the old fire station used to be.
It's a whole little place, and when I bring in the food truck aspect. You know, where there'd be some kind of, you know, you're there for 2 weeks and then another food truck or 2 come in. It's a different option for people for lunch to sit out there in the park and enjoy it while maybe mom and big sister are shopping in town, you know. It keeps people here.
I like all of it, Ned, but personally, I'm not a big fan of the food truck because I think already our Range League businesses have a super short season already, and with Alley right there and with
I
Mike
understand.
Lyons, Sarge and a few others. I mean, I don't think it'd have a big impact. I think we'd have to really think that through. I do think that it would be an excellent spot for like the farmer's market and try to encourage more of that happening, more events on Saturday or those type of things. I see the parks getting utilized some, but that building blocks kind of the beauty of it.
Yeah.
And if we could do something there, and I know, I can't imagine, you know, the way Range, the real estate goes, I can't imagine him wanting to give it away for what he paid, which was about 150,000.
Just because I'm
That's a jump change
Can
for
we
that.
get back?
Location.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
No, I'd like to explore the question of how that would help us with the dam at an appropriate time. Which may happen after this. Here's a picture of the front side of the dam, same day. You can see the top of the gate. This device right here is the gate, and there's no water going over it, right? It's an inch or so below it that day, because it was a really dry summer.
Did I ask a question? Is that before we lost one of the boards?
So
We didn't lose.
there's no board missing.
There's no missing.
This elevation, mouse is the elevation where this dam was designed to keep the water at. So this elevation, it's probably an inch or 2 below it, as I just said, it's a little below the top of the dam. Top of that dam is where the elevation of the dam is built to keep the water. So if you put, I just want to kind of follow up with a couple of meetings ago, if you put another foot, 14 inches on top of this, in a dry season or in normal times, you're gonna be flooding out all the abutters there. 14, you're gonna be
Well,
Not necessarily a 100-year flood stage, but you're gonna be quite high, so that's not the normal level in my mind.
I'm differing with that because I do believe, being on that pond
Mhm.
since 1957, I've seen the pond higher than that without flooding anybody's property, with the gate managed properly in case there's gonna be a lot of rain.
Mhm.
And over the years, there were 3 planks, 2x6s, I don't know how long they were. But one for the last couple of years has been rotting out of the bottom. So even when the gate was closed, the pond water would flow out. And in my view, we're missing that bottom piece. Which is 6 inches when it's closed. It's 6 inches higher.
Mhm.
Is where the water should be coming down and going over without flooding anybody.
Again, I have intelligence that tells me there's not a board missing, I trust it, and I see that there isn't one. Now, I think we step away from that in the paperwork, in the Chick-fil files here, as I gave you, there's a benchmark there somewhere that Frenchie had surveyed, David Janey went and surveyed it, so you could use that benchmark to figure out, you know, where the elevation is supposed to be, but I think, you know, to remind the committee, you've asked to kind of look at it with fresh eyes, you know, where should the elevation, be? That was the point of that. So, but it's kind of, from my view, we've got where we're at now and maintaining it at this level. We've got a program in place to keep that going and to keep the emergency management portion of it in. This committee will help me, help the board come up with our recommendation. Is this level correct? Is there another level that it should be at when it's at resting? You know, when it's resting, so to speak. So I don't know that we're ready to do that yet. We kind of need some experts to help us with it, I think.
What will be interesting to see from my point of view is if we look at, say, this end of the pond in July,
Mhm.
when the water level is still relatively high, it hasn't gotten to August low levels yet. See where it compares to the depths on this map. Who knows when this was created?
I think that was from the 50s, actually.
And possibly do soundings at certain points throughout the year to determine where the water level is in a quote unquote normal year. That's something that we don't know.
Right.
Well, I keep bringing up the fact that if you look all around the pond, you see the rings on the rocks of where the water was up to for 30 years before this situation came to our attention that something's wrong. That's when, as a youth, I remember being able to dive off my dock without hitting rocks, putting a Rangeley boat in without scratching against crap underneath. The pond was higher. And if anybody wants to think it wasn't, no, this is the way it was. I showed pictures to prove it. There are people still around me who remember it. And, you know, it's like beating my head against the wall to convince people that there are a handful of people who know what it was like. And there was no problems with flooding down the stream until people screwed up management of the gate, forgetting to open it when a hurricane's coming through, you know, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, you know, then I gotta interject there. It's a strong statement to say that people screwed up the management. You offend people when you say that. I don't know if you realize that. There are people who volunteered their time to do that. Now, maybe their work called them away to go somewhere else, they had something else happen and they didn't adjust it, you know, as many times in a day as you thought, but please be considerate of those folks.
I'll try to be sensitive to those people, but we're talking about the pristine waters of Rangeley region.
Which is why we're all here. We want to make sure that it.
Well, this is why I think 2 things need to happen. I'm sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Well, it looks to me you got an engineering drawing, you get some historical stuff there, there should be some markings that indicate where the normal level used to sit. And have that tied in with an engineer and get a Loma certificate and we're done. That's what I would do. I get it.
I'm sorry, get a what certificate?
Well, we do Loma certificates with the floodplain, so that, what that is a guy like Dave Cheney. Somebody who comes in as a surveyor, they come in, they say, this is the elevation, boom, and if you go back to the original flood maps, they all have those marked. Which is some of the stuff that data is here, and you should be able to clearly mark right on the granite. A clear mark of where the level should be, like, well, should go back to Ned's historic levels. My folks had a place there, we were at, on the terrace side there, right in front of, we had the house, a camp right in front of the little pond. It's now pretty much filled in. But I remember the levels that were there in this room, and I don't think that's wrong, it's not higher, but I think if we can get it there, and then what even I think would be better is we can work on getting a grant in those pieces where it's a system and then it's able to be, whether it's a laser sight or something, and then it can be adjusted, not have to rely on human means. So we're not having discussions if so-and-so screwed up or so-and-so missed it. Take the human error out and we just get it set like a lot of these communities have, where it can just be set to be able to line up to that point where it needs to be. The question is, and that's Ned's point is, hey, for 30 years it was at this level. Let's figure out where that level was so we get it back to that, because it's important that people can enjoy on the Haley Pond side as much as important for people to be able to enjoy on the Rangeley Lake side. So we need to get that dialed back in so that can work. I mean, I don't think it's a heavy lift. There's gonna be some costs associated with it, but I think this is the prime thing that there's funds to go apply for that we can get to get this done and then switch it to an electronic system. And then we get out of having to worry about what can happen there. We have very good stable electricity for the most part in Rangeley. And even if we set that up with a backup system that can run, the longest I've lived in town Rangeley now since 2014. For 11 years, the longest we lost power was 23 hours. And that was a unique event.
I like your view of this, and I agree with the automated level setting, which I've shared with you previously. I think that that's a good goal for the town. I mean, that's not an immediate step that we can take. We obviously need to get to the policy and so forth set in there.
Can I ask how much a ballpark figure for electronic laser situation, rebuilding a lot of the hardware, how much is that gonna cost? And it's a question that would have to go to Augusta, and do you think there's a grant for something like that?
I think there's money in DC for that. I think I can go after money for that. One of the reasons I came to this conversation was because I think there's funding sources out there that we can do that. Rangeley's done well. Senator Collins, why she's still in, some people don't like her, but I like her. She's the head of appropriations. We got $11 million to do the airport. In fact, we made $1 million something on it from the dirt, right? Something like
Not
that.
quite that much, but
They gave $750,000 when they did the child care project up here. That came from an earmark fund that was requested to Senator Collins' office. We can go in and request at the Rangeley Lake region. We can talk about your stuff as a homeowner, saying we want to preserve and have a good, consistent way to control the waterfall so it benefits both the folks on Haley Pond and those that are alongside the stream, so that the water can properly flow and be controlled and managed based on what's going on.
do you
And
think?
I don't think is it gonna be a couple 100,000, maybe, but I think it's one of those things where if we can get 90% of it covered and we've got to raise 10%, I don't think we'll have a problem raising the 10%. I raise money all the time.
Should we explore your previous, and I know we gotta wrap this meeting up by 5 for noon. Should we explore your previous thought, Chris, about the park, expanding the park and having more room to do something with the dam? And should we explore, you said you reached out to DOT in terms of right of way. Is the right of way, I'm gonna tie this into another concern of the town, it's not really related to Haley Pond. We have what's called a siphon line underneath that bridge for the sewer system. Bridge crossing structure. it may make sense to tie that all into one larger project. Now, I know there's a little bit of scope creep there, and that wasn't what you signed on for, but it may keyway into that.
Well, I think we go after that, or we can go after, community block grant money.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different windows.
But I think the genesis or the starting point of the entire conversation is to Ned's point, it is what is the right level here? What is it? That's, I mentioned to the board of selectmen the other night, when you do a construction project, you start at the bottom, right? So this is like the bottom of the project.
We knew what the
Base of
baseline water
project.
level is
This is
supposed to
the
be.
base.
Right.
And then everything pivots off that, everything downstream pivots off
Exactly.
of that, so.
That's why I think we gotta talk to someone who's an engineer, we gotta talk to somebody either from US Fish and Wildlife.
But I think Chris is kind of,
Department of Fisheries.
yeah, he's shown the light on the necessity of this project and how it relates to other things.
Are there any markings on the dam that
Yes.
indicate where the level should be?
Yes, yeah, there's a,
On the pond side of it, I couldn't see it.
Ally said
Um, you guys, there's a orange spray painted mark. And about a week ago, the pond was higher than it is now. And it was almost up to the orange spray painted mark. And it, to me, seemed at just about the right level. Ned would maybe say it in the old days it was higher than that, and that might be, and it could probably go another inch or so that it without flooding Frosty or Nix or anybody, but it could have gone maybe another inch, 2 at the most, I would say. But to me, that mark that's there, because I'm there every day, it's pretty fair for at least the end of Haley Pond that I'm on. Right now, the water, I was there yesterday or the day before, and it was way below the spray painted mark. But just if we could catch it on a day that it's exactly at that mark, maybe Ned could then see, well, how much more does he think, how much higher should it be on his end of the pond? And maybe we could figure it out that way, like almost like a field trip. I don't know. But there is a mark that the guys have been going by.
Well, the nice thing is water's level, right? Water's a great leveler, right?
When?
Yeah.
At any time,
Almost always.
water is level. Like if you're on a pond and a pond is dead flat calm, that's quote unquote level. So what would be helpful, Ned, is if one day you could say, okay, I'm gonna go measure, and when I remember it was 4 inches higher, then go over to the dam in the same 15 minutes, measure where that point is and see where 4 inches is on that level, and I think that would give you an idea.
You know how many times I've taken a yardstick to places on my property, places on the other side of the pond, and at the gate? Probably 24 times.
So do you think that that paint mark is at the right level? You think it's an inch too low, inch too high?
Whoever put that mark,
So where should it be?
That's what we need to find
no,
out.
well, the way,
Well, I'd like to hear where he thinks it should be.
2 things. One is on my property, I know where there's a rock that's just right out in the pond, 5 feet, that about 2 inches of the top of that rock should be showing. That equals where, when the gate is closed, water comes right up to the top of the gate and goes over.
Okay,
And that is where the rings are on the rocks, way back in the stumps.
so you're saying it's still a couple, even when the water's going over the dam in the bottom position, it's still a couple inches too low, is what you're saying.
I'm sorry.
So then we gotta follow some logic and reason here in order to try to get to a logical explanation. So what I'm saying is, if you go out on that rock and you measure down where the water level is to where you think it should be, and if that's 4 inches, then you go over to the dam, see where the level is currently, and you go up 4 inches, and you somehow note that or mark that, or somehow, even if you use a piece of chalk and then take a picture, then we at least know where it is in relative to the painted mark. So then we can then have the engineer go and measure the elevation of both your mark and the painted mark. And then we can then extrapolate that from the other engineering that's out there to determine where we are for the right level. That's the quick and dirty way to do it, because water is level.
The quick and dirty way, in my mind, is after the snow is melted, the water has cleaned out, gone through the gate. The pond is stable. The gate is closed, the water goes across the top. See if I'm incorrect. And my assumption that still there's a good 4 to 6 inches higher than it should be.
Right, and what I'm saying is, which I'm not sure you're understanding, what I'm saying is, it doesn't matter if we wait till the spring or the fall. If you go out and measure where you think the water normally should be and where it is currently now, that definition of inches, and you go over to the dam and measure that same amount of inches, it's going to tell you where your level would be if it was at the proper level, in your opinion.
In my opinion, and I'm.
So if you can measure those two things and give that information to Joe, then when the engineer is there to measure the elevation, he can measure the orange mark and Ned's mark. And then that way you've got a discussion point to have on the water level. Make sense?
As long as, and here is one of my problems I've had, is it can be where you think it is close to where it is one day. And 2 days later, it's 5 inches lower because the gate has been open too much.
And that's fine.
No,
But that's what you're missing from my point. Whether you measure it today at 5 o'clock, or you measure it when it's a 1.5 foot lower, tomorrow at 4 o'clock. As long as when you measure that, you go over to the dam within the same few minutes, it's gonna be pretty darn close to the mark to measure. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So if you can do that,
I see what you're saying, Chris, just to determine the proper height.
well, I just wanna know where Ned's mark is in relation to
Yeah.
the gray mark.
You're talking about
Yeah.
creating a baseline of data.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the easiest way to do it. If Ned says, it's always used to be 2 inches above that rock, he marks that spot. And then he measures down to the water level and he measures that distance, and that's 6 inches. And then he goes over in the same 15 minutes. The water level's not gonna change that much in 15 minutes.
Use
He gets over to
use
the
the orange spray paint.
orange spray paint as a mark and say, okay, how much difference is my mark from that orange spray paint? And then you'll be able to see the water level, you'll be able to measure up that same delta and see where you're at.
And.
If you can, I can do it.
And more than my rock, there are other rocks. There's a huge one at the far end that has, it's right there in dark on the rock versus the gray color of the rock.
Then let's get some measurements.
Please.
Go out in the boat and measure those spots, and then we write it down, and then we can measure the other part. It's pretty easy. We can even do it by radio where Ally or somebody is, or Nick's at the dam and you go, okay, I'm measuring now. Nick measures at the same point.
Couple of rowboats and kayaks and we'll go and.
There you go. Cool. Right, I've got to go.
Any announcements?
I do not have any announcements, no.
Next meeting date is December 2nd.
Correct. I've invited the MEMA dam safety folks. They've agreed to come,
Okay,
whether it's in person or remotely, depends on the weather.
if I get any answer from the DOT, I will let you know before we leave next Friday. And I will see if I can zoom in on December 2nd. That's gonna be a shot in the dark as to where we're gonna be and what the time difference is.
Is that at 4?
It'll be at 5 o'clock, that's typically.
No, I got a dentist appointment in Augusta that day. I will be happy to postpone it.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me chime in.
Well, thank you, Chris.
Yeah, and Joe, we'll catch up, but that was the crux of that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
That's all? You should make a motion to adjourn, I would think.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Aye.
Motion to adjourn.
Anyway.
Oh, okay, that's 3-0, that was,
That's 3. Oh, good.
thanks, everybody, appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Ally.
Thank you.